Okay, yeah, thanks. Sorry for that short interruption or short break. So, okay, great. So we'll go straight into it right now. Yeah, so today we'll be looking at what does ethics mean in finance, talking through different what are the common ethical dilemmas in finance, pretty much what you see every day that leads to your ethical dilemma and situation. Oh, you can't hear me, sorry. What am I doing wrong? Okay, I'll figure out what is wrong. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Awesome. So great. So we'll talk about the different ethical frameworks for decision making. Pretty much trying to personalize it. How do you make decisions? And we'll look at real life case studies. So like I said, I'm going to run briefly through this presentation so we can have a conversation around it. So the first thing is, what is ethics in finance? So before we even go too far, what does ethics mean to each and every one of us? We need to ask that question for us to be able to know, okay, what exactly are we talking about? So I dug around quite a number of interpretation and definition to ethics, but the one I think for me hit home the hardest is from Wall Street Mojo. I think for me that one is quite simplified. It's simplified in the sense that it hits the three key elements that summarizes the topic based on our industry. One, ethics is purely a set of moral standards and principles. So it's about what everyone agrees is right or wrong. Sometimes there may be no law, quote or unquote, that directly impacts it, but we all know it's whether it's right or wrong. Then it's what guides us as individuals or our profession or the industry. So in this case, finance industry doesn't necessarily mean the banking, finance, and money, but technically it means finance, like we as accountants or finance professionals. What are the ethics and morals of our profession? Then the final piece of it is promoting honesty, integrity, and transparency in the overall economic framework. So the whole idea of ethics is about promoting honesty and integrity and transparency whatever we do. And I'm sure each and every one of us at our daily lives and at our jobs, there's something we see that we get this tested. Maybe not us even directly, but we see it on a daily basis how some of these things are tested. So towards the end of this, we'll have a real conversation around that. So once we understand that as the definition of ethics, so what are the common ethical dilemmas we face at work, as finance professionals or accountants, whichever way you want to look at it? These are some of the things that we see. Number one is conflict of interest. This is the most common a lot of us see, in the sense that people people's interest at work is conflicted all the time. I know situations where I've seen couples not legally married, but maybe um, dating at work, you know, and there's always that conflict regarding how things should be done and all that. I've seen it almost half of the organizations I worked in. I've seen that happen, like unofficially dating. That's why most times most organizations don't encourage office relationship or even marriage, because there's always going to be that conflict regarding taking important decisions at work. So this is simply like I explained, pretty much personal versus professional interest, client versus employer. Sometimes towards the end, I will explain another scenario. And one of the personal situation I had once was I had a friend, like a mentor, pretty much, that was someone like a father to me when I was younger, and I got a job in Big Four there, working for Big Four, and I found out later that a client was doing something funny with that mentor. So, you know, this is a man who pretty much helped me in my life, when I don't have money, sort of raised me in a way, if you get what I mean. And here I am working in a Big Four firm, auditing a company, and the company I'm auditing, I'm seeing traces of unnecessary transactions, wrong, wrong transactions between that individual's company and the company I'm auditing. So part of what I should do is report it, but I did something. I'm not gonna disclose everything, today, but it's part of a scenario some of you might have. Some of you might have a situation where maybe the boss is sleeping with a colleague. So, and the colleague knows that and takes advantage of it and is not necessarily doing the right things. You see that a lot in the office. Maybe there's a manager or head HOD or director that likes one small girl, and that small girl be disrespecting everybody, coming late and doing anyhow, and ethically it's wrong, but maybe in that company there's no law to it. So you those are some of the things that you will face on a daily basis. Another one is insider trading. Insider trading is pretty much using material non-public information for personal gain or advantage. So, for example, if you know that if you work in a company that is publicly quoted, this is the most common one, whereby you know that, okay, hey, this company is going to declare dividend this year or next year. You quickly use that information to go and rush and buy the shares of that company, you know, just so that you can get the dividend. But the whole idea behind it is you have insider information and you are using to take advantage. One of such recently happened to me where I am right now, where there's a client of ours. I work in a technology company that builds technology and software for in the blockchain space. So there's a client that wants to issue a token, and we know that the client is trying to sign a deal that will lead to a significant growth. And anybody that understands how Bitcoin and crypto works knows that it's a very insane market. You can buy a stock or an asset for maybe, I don't know, 10 cents, and within a span of 1 month it can go to $10. You have those kind of multipliers, or even $20. I saw one that went from $2 to, I think it's trading at about $40 right now. So imagine putting $2 and it's now $40. So something like that is happening around for a particular client who is in the process of negotiating, and they are already going into the market for, like, I think it's about 40 or 50 cents, something ridiculous like that. And we know that if they hit the market, it will go as high as 20, 30. But because of ethically is wrong for me to invest in it, I am not supposed to and use such information, because I found out the information because of my position to be in finance, to understand the decision of why we're onboarding that client and why we're taking the kind of pay. Because what led to it was, it's a normal client, but the client is trying to structure the payments of the service in the sense that we pay like 30. Usually we take 80% cash. Then for some of those clients, we can take 20% payment in tokens or coins or whatever it is, because these things fluctuate. So you might lose value, and but we have a risk range that we hedge with. That, okay, anything beyond that particular risk range, we won't take it. But in this case, this client is willing to say he's going to pay 40% in cash, while 60% in coins and tokens. And I'm asking myself, this is something new. Who knows if anybody's going to buy this and all that. So, and that's when the explanation was given to me that, okay, this is currently happening and they're at an advanced stage. Within the next 2-3 months, they will close that deal, and it will take the price from like that 40 cents to at least, within a span of 1 week, to at least $5 or $10. So that's like 10x of whatever is in there. So if I want to be okay, crook too, I can come here, I want to buy this, I want to use that. So that's pretty much what insider trading uses, and this is common. If people who understand stock market and all that know that this is very common. Another one we see a lot is fraud and misrepresentation. This is common for startups, and not all, but it's general for some of you who work in startups, and even some of you who work in organizations who have bank loans. You'll see this a lot, where you are asked to prepare reports that doesn't necessarily show true and fair view. You play around with some numbers, because bank will not borrow you money if those numbers don't look good. But you, as a finance guy, you are naturally putting your name and reputation on the line by submitting information that is not necessarily right. And because of your training, finance person, I can't, whatever ACCA, that integrity is key. But here you are, the owners of business, you just adjust this number, put one more zero at the end to show that we have this number of customers, or create non-existent revenue. So, or turn cash into accrual. Those kind of things. You will see it a lot. People work in startups see this a lot. I can tell you for free. So that's another very common thing. I don't think there's any accountant in their career that will escape this. At some point you'll be forced to do it. Even the bigger companies do this. Or companies where people will tell you to do payroll twice a month, like you dodge taxes. Only the 1 month end is what taxes applied on. The one mid-month, nobody pays taxes on it. Then you load the mid-month pay. So it's those are things that are ethical. Ethically there are issues you will experience. Another one is bribery and corruption. I think everybody understands this in Nigeria. You want something, but you can't get it. Like I've been in situations where tax, I think this is even common. If you have ever dealt with people in tax office, you know that there is no way in Nigeria that you don't have to bribe. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean how you sit down and negotiate money. Sometimes it's just you wetting the ground. Say, mommy, daddy, just okay, take this one for the weekend. Because you want something to come faster. Especially if you have any reason to deal with any government office, this is normal. It's unethical, but hey, you have to be able to do it. You are in business, you have to survive. So you will experience this a lot. Misuse of assets. I see this one a lot. This one too is very common. So a typical scenario is maybe people who have staff vehicles or drivers, or whatever. Let me even use that one as using it for right now that everywhere is rough, T-pain economy. You see somebody using company car for Uber just to get small change. Pretty much using company stuff for what it was never the initial purpose or intention. And this is also common, which you and I will agree. Like, I did it too. When I was working in a company, I had a car. I gave my car to my wife, company car, to be using it. That was never the purpose. So ethically is wrong, but no law against it. So these are some of the ones you see. There are tons of them you see every day, but I try to summarize it into this top 5 for that. There's no one in this room or in this world that will be in a finance professional accountant that will not experience at least one of these things in their career path. So now that we have a general idea, so the question is, how do we make a decision when we are faced with an ethical situation, an ethical scenario? First thing is you need to identify the ethical issue. So if you don't clearly define what the problem is, you would not be able to know what to do. Something being ethically wrong, sometimes we don't push every button we are supposed to push. So, like, I give a scenario. I'll give you a typical example. I know I worked in a company that is illegal for office romance, office relationship, and I know 2 people that were dating each other. One in finance, one in procurement. In business, in company, in organization, that's a sin, a classical crime, because there's no way the hands will not, shake and things will not happen. At that point, fortunately, I was their manager. I was the manager of the one in finance, and the other one too in procurement wasn't at my level. So I had a chance to do 2 things. Either one, I could go to HR and say, "Come, these people are breaking the cardinal, rule in the company, dating each other, or, or I can just figure out how to deal with it, like probably talk to them or something." So I had to take a decision, of which I did. I didn't report. I just had to because if in those kind of situations, we all know that something is happening, but you know how it is now. When those people, you don't even understand whether it's relationship or they are just dropping each other, whatever their game is, or I don't know. I really don't care. But I made sure that I let the guy know, I know what's going on. That whatever it is, either you stop it or don't get caught. That's the rule for me. And from then on, move the guy to where he can't have access to cause harm. Now, that's an ethical situation because he hasn't committed any offense yet by stealing money or doing anything. I wasn't able to trace anything, but I know that something is wrong right there. So at that point, if there was a crime or something totally wrong, I'm supposed to report or escalate it. But at that point, it hasn't gotten that way. So I was able to clearly define what the issue was. The issue was the fact that they're dating. There's no issue that fraud has been committed or any of those things, but it's the fact that they are breaking the company law. So I had to figure out a way to balance it out and make sure that the law is not broken by building the necessary checks around, checks and balances around that situation. Because, like I said, they are just going out. I don't know if it's runs, just normal helping each other out. I don't know if it's something serious that they will get married, but so I would be, and it wasn't like, oh, they were doing it so, playing in the office that it's obvious. It's just normal human instincts that I was able to find out that come. These people, they are wakano pure, So at the end of the day, a decision had to be made. So, and that was pretty much how I addressed that. So the first thing is you identify it. The next thing is you need to gather relevant information, which is the example I gave. I had to understand what is the relevant information. The information is that yes, they are doing this. Information is that yes, they are doing this out of the office, but if you look well, you see it. If you don't look well, you probably won't know. The information is that has there been any fraud? No, there's no fraud. Has there been any? Is he in a situation? Because the guy is the one in finance. Is he in a situation to influence something? His current role, yes. But is there a role I can put him that will not allow him to be able to influence anything? And the answer was yes. So I was able to gather the right information to make a decision. The next thing is evaluate alternative courses of action. You need to list out the various alternative courses of actions, whether right or wrong. Like I highlighted earlier, I could have reported him or them to the HR to say fire them because they've just broken the law, or I can figure out how to manage it. And I had all those options available, so I identified it. Then the next thing, I chose one, which is okay, not to fire the guy, but rather to move the guy to a different team whereby he doesn't get involved in such a situation. So it was moved to account receivable to report to someone who was a bit more strict. So that way I know that his job is just to send emails to follow up HR and send emails to customers and update the reports in terms of receivables, like okay, weekly to know who is owing us. So it has no business with payments or anything like that. Then last is implement and evaluate, which is what I did. I implemented it, moved them around, and I evaluated with some continuous monitoring to be sure. Interestingly enough, I think after a few months, two of them parted with, and so that's why I said, but at that point, I wasn't sure how the thing was going to end. So this is also a 5-step guide for anyone who finds himself in an ethical situation. So first, identify the issue. Second is you need to gather the relevant information. Third is evaluate alternative course of action. Fourth is choose the best action. 5 is implement and evaluate. Sometimes you may not be in a situation where you are the decision maker. So at that point, you still need to go through this step to ask yourself, okay, what is the right or wrong? And I guarantee most of us see that every day, especially people who work in organizations where there's a procurement team. Procurement people are known for, I'm not saying all of them, but they are known for always adding something to price and things like that. There are situations I've had in so many times where procurement people will bring in a supplier and you will find out later that the supplier is related to the procurement manager one way or the other. So you might find yourself seeing those things, but you need to make a decision regarding, do you want to escalate to your manager? Do you, whatever it is that's available, but you can follow this 5 step. So just to round up the part of the presentation so we can have a real conversation that is practical. This happened was last year, and I decided to bring it up again today. I'm sure we all still remember the 438 million naira contract scandal. So, which was between Beta Edu, the lady on the right, the lady at the bottom of the screen, and the Honorable Minister for Internal Affairs, Olubunmi Tunji. So the president had this scenario. What do you do? First of all, Beta Edu awarded the contract to a company where Olubunmi Ojo was or is, we don't know. He said he left as a director before the whole thing happened, which is possible, But, there's the face value of it to say, okay, hey, he's no longer a director. Beta Edu understands that he's no longer a director, so the contract was awarded. But there's the real value of it where we all think deep to ask ourselves real life scenarios. Is it possible that the company would have gotten the contract from Beta Edu without the influence of Olubunmi Ojo? Even though Olubunmi Ojo, yes, Minister of Interior, thanks. Olubunmi Ojo was claiming that he was not part of it, he doesn't know anything about it. logically, it is right. Yeah, it's not part of the company, so how does he influence it? But ethically, is it right for him to know? Because there's no way he will say he didn't know that government is giving a contract to a company he has investments in and all that without would he say he doesn't know how the contract was awarded without some handshake or using some friendly whatever. So here you are as Mr. President trying to figure out, what do I do? Automatically we all know better I do has been eased out, we because unfortunately enough, or real life scenario, because this is real life scenario, ethical situations sometimes happen where it goes beyond that immediate picture we all see. There's a bigger chain tied to the situation. What do I mean? During the election campaign, I don't think there was a video that you would have seen the president campaigning anywhere that you didn't see this woman behind him. That's better I do. Which means he owes her a lot. She was very instrumental and everything to help him get there. Mobilizing women and all that. I think she was a women leader of APC. But here you are in a situation where something funny has happened, because she too, she was claiming she didn't know, she wasn't involved in it and all that. She didn't know who the contract was awarded to and all that. She didn't have all the details. She just signed. But hey, we all understand the importance of signing. When you sign a document, it means you take full responsibility for it. That's why it's expected that you read through the contract before you sign it, or whatever document it is, as a manager or as a HOD or whatever. So there's no way she can deny, as she can deny it that she knew something about it. So now here the three of them are in a dilemma. Mr. President is struggling to say, hey, this woman that worked for me, see the way she got embarrassed. Morally she has committed a crime. She has to go. But in between, and I'm thinking to myself, and I'm asking myself the question now, where do I put her? Like, should I still leave her as a minister or should I fire her? The same thing on the Olubunmi Ojo side. He's saying, no, I don't know anything about it, but he's making money from it. So that's something for you to think about at your moment. If you are the president, what would you do? Would you fire Olubunmi Ojo or not? If, as based on this scenario. Then the second one I wanted to talk about is personal experience, and I'm sure this one we've all had something similar. This one was very I'll give you two. The first one is this. I was working on a project for a company when I was still in Big Four, and we were trying to help them right size meaning they were to let go some people. So there was a list that was to be compiled of people that had to let go, assessing, analyzing. We had to work on a sort of a process manual to understand what everybody does and restructure the company processes to say, okay, hey, do you really need 10 people to do this task? Maybe if you just pay for one software, which is way cheaper than the salary of one person, and that way you can fire 5 or 8 people, whatever it is. So we wrote the processes around their key operations. Then we had to make a number of people redundant, I think about 100. Unknowingly to me, when the whole thing started, and this is a real situation some of you might even experience, one of the people that was going to be let go is the wife of my cousin. She was working there. I didn't even know, it wasn't an audit engagement, so you didn't really have to declare anything because I wasn't part of the people going to the field. I was only someone sitting behind the desk in the office when people go to the field, take information, send it to us. Then we review the processes and try to look for efficiency in there and say, okay, why don't you jump this step and do this and cut off these 2 or 3 people to get fired and all that. So something that happened in that process, and eventually my cousin's wife's name was included in the list of people that will be let go. And I was faced with a situation because around that same time, something happened to her. She got a job offer elsewhere. But she was doing shakara that the money is not plenty enough. It was more than what she was earning. But she didn't want to leave. Because I know she won't leave because of this money. And I know that she'll be fired in the next 2 weeks. And here I am, trying to figure out what do I do, So I was faced with an ethical dilemma in the sense that, should I tell her that, come, madam, I tried all sorts of cute. It's just 10% on my pay increase. And take it now, it might be a better place. She said, no, her current job is good, yada, yada, yada. She doesn't want to leave. But I know our current job within the next 2 weeks you'll be out. But I can't tell her that, hey, take this job because you're gonna be fired. So what do you do? And I was faced with it. And this thing I'm telling you, it took me like a week because it was burning in me. I didn't have anyone to talk to because of confidentiality. I can't reveal it to anyone because even the project, we called it Project X. No one was even supposed to know in that organization. It was just management that was trying to, restructure his balance sheet and P&L, trying to see where they can cut fat and things like that. So I took a decision. I'm not going to tell you what I did so that you won't go and use my style. Whoever is going through that, I want the person to feel the pain so they will lose weight like I lost weight. Because I tried everything to like convince her, just take this job. But it wasn't a totally sad ending. That's what I did to make sure that, because I knew it was, so I had a 2 weeks window, fortunately. So, and it wasn't a totally sad ending. So, but the exit happened, and she because at the end of the day the report came out. It had to be presented. Okay, this report came from company XXX, which are consultants. We are restructuring. Some of you have to go. She found out that it was my company, and she was like, why can't I have asked around? One thing that I would, I had to like pretend like I didn't know what was happening during the project, but we had a good ending. So that's my own case study, real life scenario. So if more people ask me the question, I might tell you what I did, but if not, it's fine. So that's my real life ethical dilemma that I faced. There are a couple of them I faced. I've been fortunate in my life to be a CFO at some point, and I guarantee you, every week there's always one ethical dilemma you'll see where you have your best staff being the one who is involved in doing some funny stuff. I've had one of my best staff borrow money from petty cash to survive. You know, put paper. Yeah, I'm sure some of you come from some of those companies like me. Then you have situation where you have petty cash that people, where you want to take money for transfer, you see paper there, I owe you. Everybody has borrowed 2k, 3k. So that at the end of months they will come and collect back those people, and there are tons of it. So, but this is my own real life scenario. So thank you for listening to that, and I think I will open up the stage so people can ask questions. Then we can talk more, because like I said, I want it to be as real as possible. I don't want us to dabble on presentations, because all ethical situations that we see in any organization, any company not complying, I guarantee it starts from personal situations, even tax compliance. I've worked for a company. I'll give you a typical scenario. I've worked for a company whose markup on their product is 5%. They can't sell more than 5% because it's a very competitive industry. In some cases, they even do only 4%. But guess what? This is a company that's supposed to charge VAT. Now, the problem with it is that the company is big, so it's known in the market. But the competitors are not that big, and the market is so unstructured that customers, it's an even product. So it's like a product that you don't need someone to tell you about it. You know what it is. Like, you want to go and buy rice, you know what rice is. So everybody is selling rice now. So nobody needs to come and start telling you, this rice is given to me by this company, it's better. No, you know all the big brands. So this company cannot afford to pay taxes. They can't afford to charge VAT, because if they charge VAT, it will mean that their price of their product will be 7.5% higher than every other person, because the competitors don't pay tax, because most of the competitors are not big corporates like them. Most of the competitors are small roadside sellers. So it created a problem, like, and here we are. We have to, because it's a big company, the government is always targeting it that you are not paying taxes. So in our P&L and or balance sheet, we always have to reserve an amount for tax liability and tax management, aka Egunje settlement, because we know that every year the tax people will come. We must give them their own. The tax people write the same report year in, year out. Come, you guys gotta comply. If you don't comply, you do this. And you see them now, look at the numbers. You're not going after our competitors, but you want us to comply. If I put this products for everybody is selling it 105, and I call it for you 112, would you buy? The answer is no. So how do you want me to survive if you are not helping me by going after these smaller competitors? So it's an ethical situation for someone who has never been in that scenario, because the amount of money I'm talking about runs into billions of naira. I tell you for free. So it's always a perpetual, and the owner of the business actually wants to comply because we have conversations all the time. That sir, they say I want to do it, but I can't survive if I do it. So I am forced to adjust my thinking in the sense that it's unethical. Let's be honest with ourselves. I'm not going to come BS you here and say, oh, everything is nice and all that. No, it's unethical to give bribe, but for the company to survive, I have to give bribe. So what do? I had to learn to like, okay, look, it doesn't make sense, but there's a business side of me. I need to like forget ethics for a while and think business survival. When the company was smaller, it was easy, but it's big now. The tax people know where you are, so they're always gonna keep coming. So you always have to, rather than pay the taxes. And I tell you one thing, one big CEO. He's a CEO of a bank. He's no longer a CEO now, but the bank is still there. He once said in a room that I was that when we were telling him that okay, accrue for X amount in tax, he said he won't. That he'll rather avoid taxes and use as high as 50 or 100 million to settle, because what that technically does for him is actually savings. Rather than pay a 1 billion naira in taxes, he'd rather pay 100 million and use 100 million to settle. That additional 800 million is going to add to his cash flow, and that's what he was doing every year. One of the big banks you see today, I tell you, that's what a lot of big corporates do. So that's my own situation and that's my own scenario. So thank you for listening, and I leave the floor open for anyone to ask any question, and we can take it from there and be as real. I want us to be as real because I'm sure we all have all these situations every day. So I want us to have real life conversations. Bring up your situation if you are facing or you faced, and let's talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. George, for the awesome presentation. If anyone that has a question can raise his or her hand so we can call on you to ask your question. Then, in the interim, Sir George, I would like you to like let us know how you're able to deal with that confidentiality issue relating to someone who you knew was going to get sacked in 2 weeks, and everyone would get into the emotional state to find a cue to inform the person to just accept the new offer rather than like being professional and keeping mute and letting the person suffer in 2 weeks. So just let us know how you're able to like pass that phase. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. All right, what the hell? So the person did not want to take the offer. So, as a matter of fact, the person wanted to turn it down. So what I did was I told the person to say, hey, um, it's, and this is only specific to this situation. I told the person that one, don't turn down the offer. Two, call the recruiter, because those kind of situations I always advise people don't send an email. Email might meet the person on the other side at the wrong mood and wrong time. Make a phone call and have a conversation that hey, this is what my expectations are for this role, and what this is what my expectations are, and this is what you're offering me. So what the person did was call the HR person on the other side. And I said, look, first of all, I told her that what will be your ideal range. She said at least like 50%. I said no, you won't see that. That you have multiple layers of negotiation that no one hardly before you see any company that will pay you 50% except the role is super exceptional. So rather than do that, what you should do is get back to them and tell them that the amount is low. Have that conversation, let them up it, which it took them a few days, but they did. And when they upped it, I now said, tell them that you are going back to your company to, accept it sort of, you know, tentatively accept it. Then tell them you go back to your office to give them the notice. And in that period, you take a few days and come back to the same recruiter and say, hey, my company is willing to match this. That if they can just add anything to it, that's whatever it is, add it to it, you'll take it. So that process, right, dragged for like a week and a half, you know. And before the recruiter eventually got back, it was just God, to be honest. It was like the full 2 weeks. So, but by that second week, you know how it is in Nigeria. Whatever is confidential, I started leaking out in the office that they might be letting people go. So she asked me, like, she's hearing that this and this, so that one, that one. I say, come, in life, you have to take risk. I don't know, but if you do your work well, I mean, nobody will do anything to you now. You'll be fine. But at the same time, you can't trust human beings. So I will say, use style and hang on to this and play around until this wind blows by. And if it doesn't affect you, you will be lucky. You won't have anything to worry about. So she was worried. Unfortunately for her, like it's what I also do when I want to take up a job. I don't take an offer the same day I'm giving. I always push at least a day or two to just buy time, whatever it is. So fortunately, that helped us take away the 2 weeks, and something somewhere just gave them information that our department will be affected. And for some good measure, she had accepted the offer, but she hadn't resigned. And fortunately for her, she was fired. They were all given letters the following Monday. So she had accepted that offer with the intention of just hanging on to renegotiate and play around just to have some fun with by herself. But she accepted the offer and she was let go the Monday. So it was bittersweet for all of us because I was happy that at least she will have something to do, And I didn't have to tell her at the end of the day. But at the same time, I was also happy she had a job. And, normal thing, I had to pretend, see, it's God though, see how God helps, so yada, pretending like I didn't know what had happened. So that was how I dealt with that scenario then. I was fortunate, like I said, the first thing was help her, don't turn down the offer, negotiate, stretch the days out to at least 1 week. So they give you an offer on Monday, tell you, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, I'm looking excited to working with you, I'll get back to you. Don't reply until Wednesday or Thursday. That this is very good, but I was expecting the different number. Nobody sends you an updated offer on Friday. Take it from me. Because whoever it is needs to discuss with the management or whoever the boss is to say, okay, what do I do? And management doesn't really take much decisions on Friday. Tell me, I've been there. So they'll push it till the following Monday. Okay, talk about it. Then Tuesday, they'll get back to you. Then that Tuesday, okay, thank you so much. We can now talk about notice period. Started to drag it. Unfortunately, that was how that sorted out. Then the other one for my like a mentor and all that. That one was a bit more tricky, and that one I had to pull out from the assignment. I had to tell my manager because what had happened was someone who was like a procurement person in the company was inflating prices and sort of using that my mentor's company to steal indirectly. Steal indirectly means something that maybe 10 naira, the guy would buy for the company at 20 naira, and go behind the scene and collect his commission from that my mentor's company. So it was just, something irredeemable because the guy was doing it for a while. He's been doing it for a while. So my problem was the man is like a father to me, so I don't want to be involved in the mess. So I had to go to my manager and say, sir, there are some things, because I don't know how it is today in Big Four. If you see an issue, you don't necessarily have to disclose what it is. You can tell them, look, you're not comfortable with something and you are, I've forgotten the word now. Is it exposed? I've forgotten that my independence may be tainted because I just discovered that in the process of this investigation, somebody on the procurement side or the supplier side is well known to me. So I don't want to go on with this and pulled out. So I was fortunate enough to be able to run away from that problem. But I also left a message that, but I think there's something big in that whole procurement cycle that really needs to be fully examined. At the end of the day, the whole thing was discovered, because look, that's what we're hired for. They knew something was wrong and they hired us to come figure it out. I just don't want to be the one to put myself in there because it was too emotional for me to because it's like somebody who helped me throughout school, like a father to me, and I know, and the money we are talking about goes into tens of millions of naira. I guarantee you, easily, like all sorts of nonsense was going on in there. So know how, because the man was giving the kickback. That I know, and I found out in a very improper way. Because if I was to be investigating normally as the consultant, I won't find out. I only found out because I know the man's company and I know people who work there. So I was able to go and reach out to them. Oga John, they can't collect something now. Now, Oga, now if you collect like this, you just drop for us. So that one was because I had that relationship, I was able to dig that deep. But if it was somebody who is just a regular person investigating, they may not have found out. The only thing they would have argued is why is he using the one that's more expensive, which means there's a red flag. But the man who's like a mentor to me, his company, he doesn't owe them anything, so he doesn't have to disclose the fact that he was giving kickback behind the scene. So that's how I was able to handle that. I just said, look, dig deep. There's a big problem. There's something major in there. I can't talk about it, but my independence is impaired because I know the owner of that company. He's like a father to me, so I'm pulling out. And unfortunately enough, I was pulled out of it. People will ask me questions in the office, say, come on, where do you think we should focus on? I would say, there's something in that thing. Just dig deep. If you can dig deep and do the work, you'll find it. They found something. What they found was just over bloating stuff, things like that. The procurement guy was fired and things like that. But my head was saved. So that's another situation. There's even a different situation where I had someone that my boss was sleeping with my subordinate. So my subordinates will do things, come late, so they say, but we can't fire her. So, and my subordinates now became so powerful in the team. The owner of the company was sleeping with her. So she was so powerful in the team, and she was like a snitch coming to come poke her nose to find information to give the boss. So smart way now. I just made sure what I did was I promoted her to a team lead in charge of inventory management. So it was when she was in reconciliation, she was able to identify maybe somebody paid the wrong amount or do things like that. So I moved her out and I called her a team lead to go and be counting inventory outside the office. So it's when you're in the office that you see things, right? So if you're not in the office, you don't see things, because sometimes we are all humans, we make mistakes. And when people make mistakes, this girl is easy to go and report it to the CEO. Sir, they've paid this supplier by this amount. The MD will now call you that the man want to be playing games that this supplier called me that people overpaid her, and making me look bad. So I thought about it. I can't fire her, I can't fight her, I can't do anything. So the best way is be nice to her. Manti, we recognize the work you are doing. From next week, I want you to be in charge of inventory. I think there's something wrong with that inventory. I need you to help me look into it. So she's forced to be out of the office where she could see those numbers. Make her every week. I'll hold meeting with her, make her feel very important. Bring like 2 or 3 people, be speaking big English. Oh, good job. But at the end of the day, I was able to fix that. But that one was way later when I became more senior. I knew how to play that game too, because that's also an ethical issue where the management is sleeping with your subordinate. You can't fire her because at most you recommend her to be sacked, and management will say no. There's no reason for them to sack her. They don't see any value and you know why. So your best bet is, how do I play the game and also win? Nothing was going on. Of course, I'm still fixing the work in my part to make sure that we now have two-step checks for people who make payments, so that people don't just pay money wrongly and things like that. But at the same time, I don't want to be working on eggshells like this person now. What is this one? Because that girl was very nosy. She'll go and download the bank statement and be looking for work when there's no work. So the best is just move her out of the office and keep her very important and make her as redundant as possible, and always bring her in for meetings. We had conversations. Oh yeah. Good job. Those inventory guys are doing something very funny. Put your eye, especially that Ibrahim guy. That guy, I don't trust him. But at the end of the day, I know that this one is my pest. Let me just put her in a place she'll be. So those are my own scenario. I want to hear from other people. You can ask questions. Okay, I think Toyosi, your hand is up. You can feel free and ask questions.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you so much, Mr. George.
Mm.
Thank you so. It's actually an interesting section. I've actually learned a lot. But going back to your first thing, let me pick it up from your first thing. What if the person does not have the other offer? Like that's the only work she has as at that time. What would you have advised her to do? Second question is, what if procurement department, there is no doubt things goes on. There is no doubt. Everybody knows. In every organization, when there is a department like that, things like that will always happen. But what can you advise in a scenario whereby from the procurement or from the maintenance department, they brought a bill that they want to buy an items how do you know that it is 500,000? When you yourself as a finance manager, you contact that same vendor that they brought you, and that same vendor now give you a bill of 500,000 as against what they've initially sent to your table, which is 1.2 million. Because like you just pretend as if you are a new customer to that vendors, like you want to buy it, the same items, but he now gave you a reasonable price about 500,000. What would you advise? Is it good for the finance manager to now take up the action and buy it from the same vendor, or is it good for the finance manager to now take up the action and then maybe you can then go outside and buy it from another place? Is it not going to be like you are taking up their role and they will not be seeing you as an enemy? This is a real-time scenario actually. Because it will not be good like up those procurements. If you are taking up their responsibility, they will be seeing you as an enemy of progress. Let me just put it in quotes.
Definitely.
So what would you advise in that scenario? Thank you.
Okay, cool. So the first one is easy. If the person doesn't have a job, there's nothing you will do now. Because the person who will be fired. You have that oath of confidentiality not to disclose. You can't. The reason why it was hard for me, like I said, it was my early days in my career, so I'd never seen such before. I was like, ha. Over the time of my career, I've seen situations where I did work with a company that let go like 50 people that I knew half of them. Like I've seen all sorts of things happen. So after a while, your heart becomes thick. I busy your mind that someone it's part of life. They won't die. Worst case, they will suffer a little, then they will get another job. Life goes on. It's part of the business. Especially when you understand why the company is doing that. It's not the best, but hey, it is. For procurement, someone also asked me something recently. We had a conversation with somebody not too short distance, and so if you are in a position to structure it, that's where internal audit and internal control comes in. People don't understand the difference between both. Internal control is control in the procurement process, so or approval process. They are part of it. Then internal audit is post-mortem when the work is done, right? Internal audit will go and check everything that's done and check and all that necessary thing. Now, what I always advise, if it's a continuous situation that is getting big, one of the things I always tell people to push for is hire somebody for internal control. Like you said, the procurement people will hate you because, and they are very smart. Take it from me. I've dealt with the number of them. This is operations. They will come to you in a way that will make you look like you're the one delaying that process. Like they will turn you into a stumbling block, a bottleneck.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly. So that's the game they play. So, from my experience, I don't normally argue because remember you are hired for a job, and part of your job is clearly defined. Yeah, maybe cost control is part of it, but you can't, even though you have the hunch and you know it's wrong, you can't jump into somebody else's job to go and procure for the company. It's not your job. The best you can do is help the company by coming into the right process. I mean, introducing the right processes, which is what I always do. I've done it like twice. Get someone internal control, convince management to get someone internal audit, whose job is to identify process weaknesses, or how do I call it? Loopholes in the processes whereby they can build inefficiency. That's the story you tell them. So the job of the internal auditor is to check things like that and write reports and give it to management. Normal and good organizations, internal auditor always reports to the CEO or the owners of the business. Once you have that in place, I guarantee you it will cut the problem by half. Because when people are doing it and they know that you are part of the process, that's when they will easily catch you by coming to you maybe a day to the day they need it, 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock. We need these things, 500K. You don't want to be the one to make the business, shut down or stop. So you are forced to make it fly, even though you know within your heart that this is nonsense and all that. But if an internal audit person handles it, it changes the dynamics. Why? Because internal audit is not working on it at that moment. Let them finish the process. Internal audit will go behind the scene and say, okay, hey, this was bought for 500K here. However, company B, company C is selling the same thing for this amount. That, write a full report which will show to management. So in that case, the procurement guy is not fighting you, one, and is also going to be dealing with the owners of the business, because then he has to now explain why he's going to the owners of business why he's buying one for 500k when it's lower. Believe me, nobody likes being exposed to management as being funny, except they are related to management or they have their way around it. So, and to be brutally honest, it's not everything you catch. Don't even waste your energy on it. We have constitutions where, like, we've introduced three supplier or supplier lists. So, okay, for example, you say that before you buy from any supplier, we must have approved lists. They must come do their documentation, have a file from them. Before you go outside those approved lists, you must get approval from the CEO. I've implemented that. We've also had situation where we use bidding, that kind of situation that before you bring something for it to be approved, you must get three quotes from the approved list. So it's not just saying you are buying from this person, you must. But you know how procurement people, they will corrupt all those your supplier lists. It's just a matter of time. They will figure out to break in and make money. So,
I tell you.
so that's where the internal audit person comes in. Like, it's just a report. You're not reporting, you're not catching anybody. Internal audit is just going to say, okay, this equipment with this specification is this, was bought from this company at 500k. However, from our investigation, we realized company F, company G, who is not part of our list, is can also provide this. A report submitted to the CEO or whoever it is. Do you think CEO doesn't want to save money? They will save money and call Oga. Why are you buying from these people? The procurement person will now be forced to, like, adjust all the time to reincorporate new people. And believe me, to get to a point, especially bigger companies, if it's a bigger company, they find it more difficult to really penetrate those ones, especially companies that supply on credits. That one is always harder. I've seen that a lot. Most procurement people hate companies that supply on credit that's bigger, because nobody will give you your own cut until we pay. So if I'm saying this company, we have them on standby to supply us steady, and we pay them after 15 or 30 days, nobody will go and give the supply guys a gunja until they collect money from us. So there are ways around it, but like I said, you can't catch everything, but at least you can slow down the ones you can slow down. And that's why everybody fears internal audits. Take it from me, everybody I know, if the internal auditor is a very straight person, because what you've done is what you know. You can always game the process when the finance guy is seeing it and move on, but you don't know what the internal auditor will come with, because the internal auditor has a different time frame and a different objective. It might take them a month. All that 1 month, the procurement person will not be sleeping well. This way the guy now, let him not go and be bringing problem now for me. And remember, the internal audit doesn't need to engage the procurement guy. Doesn't need to speak to the procurement guy. Just needs to write the report and submit it to the CEO. And the CEO seeing, we could have saved 400,000 on this thing. What do you think the CEO will be doing? So that's how you play such games. Then after a while, everybody becomes more careful. What you now start seeing is smaller things. People won't really go for heavy hit anymore. They will just be putting for 5k rather than take that 100k ones. They will just put 5k, 4k. Saying, "Oga, this one," they will defend it. They say, "This one gives us good quality, very reliable." That person is not always reliable, But it's a continuous process. But that's how you play. Don't be confrontational. That's in summary. Don't try to attack it. Don't put yourself in that process. If you do, you get your hands brought. Like I said, they've done it to me a number of times. Last minute, this thing we just run out. We need to pay for it, and it's 4 o'clock. We need it by tomorrow morning. If you don't pay by 5 o'clock today, we won't get it. What time do you have to start checking? So you will have to allow it fly, and before you know it, your normal work is still there for you to do. So get your company to hire an internal auditor that is very, very strong. Those ones that their suit is very, thick, with their face strong. You see that will stop. Yeah.
I've been strong. Well,
Yeah, so you see it will stop. Especially if you want to finish, then hire a female internal auditor and go to sleep. No, women, they are very hard when it comes to those things. They are not as easily bribed as men that have school fees to pay and the house rent. Women, when they want to do work, they will face that work, and it's only God that will help you if you don't have any, chaos.
Thank you.
No, you're
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
You're welcome. So, okay, someone else has hands raised up. You can unmute and ask.
Thank you, Jinadu. In fact, this is a really wonderful section, and the question that I think two years he also asked very critical. I was just going to pinch a little in the line of 2 years because I happen to have worked sometimes along administration, along finance, and also along procurement. Prior to that time, I also had an audit, where we have worked as an audit supervisor in a CATI firm for several years. So that really gave me a very strong footing in terms of all of these things and all that. So yeah, like in procurement, just like you guys have already pitched and said, a whole lot
Yeah.
happens in procurement. But you will see all of this conflict of interest during procurement from the inception to service delivery and how to do payments. A whole lot goes on along that line. For instance, why am I saying this? When I was working across procurement so many years ago, I will see so letter of solicitation sent out to various vendors at different time. Then I'll ask the question, why are you not giving the vendors a fair playing ground, equal playing ground for them to turn around and respond to your quotation? So why are you sending quotes to different vendors at different time? Then I flagged it and I raised questions. And, oh, so sorry, this was an oversight, it was a mistake. Then you see them correcting it. But I know that that was not right, that this was indeed not an oversight, but I just laughed. So gradually, I saw people waking up and then started doing the right thing. So they send that solicitation at the right time, giving everybody equal time to respond. And if there's an extension, you communicate accordingly as well to all the vendors. So that became like a very good practice and all of that. Then along the line again, I've seen in procurement where people receive quotations even after when they are closed. Date quotations to be closed, you still see quotes coming in. So who received this? It's you need to log it in. Was it logged in? No. So how come did he find his way to the procurement boss? You start asking questions and people are dodging their heads and all of that, which ordinarily should not be. Yeah, so procurement is very, very, very full of a lot. You face a lot of conflict of interest. Even sometimes at the part of procurement committee meeting, you see that people who are part of committee in that meeting, but some are related to some of the vendors, the bidding vendors.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, such members should not be even part of that committee meeting in the first instance. But when you narrow down, you still see some of them in that meeting. Then you start asking questions. So, was conflict of interest declared? No. So, and the meeting still went ahead, and then PO was also issued. So, I think this conflict of interest really is something that is very critical, something that is very important for us as a finance professionals to be very versatile and well abreast of. And I'm happy that this meeting here, because it will really help, if not all of us on this call, aspiring finance professionals who are looking forward to you understand to have a very good footings at their various responsibility and roles in the future. So I'm very, very, very excited about the meeting, and I appreciate your versatileness and how were you able to take us logically through all of this vast topic. It's not really something that I think we can even cover in a day.
No way.
To be very honest, because it's vast.
Yeah.
It's very vast. Like I'm just being practical and seeing it the way it is.
Sure.
Like when I there was a time I was working for an American organization, and then I had a visit from USAID auditors. They came around for their visit, and then in the course of the visit, one of them offered me some biscuits. I said, sorry, sir, I can't accept that. And he persuaded me. I said, sorry, I can't accept that. You know what is that was an acid test. So many things can be drawn from that. One, if I had accepted that, despite the persuasion, the next thought could be, if he can accept this, then he can as well accept perhaps maybe bribe from one or two of these persons. If the opportunity persists. And then they come with so many things and all of that. But because of exposure, because of little experience, I was able to overcome. Because of understanding of this conflict of interest that happens at workplace, I was able to prevail. And the same thing will help us too, and some of us on this call, wherever we find ourselves. You see, the conflict of interest of a team place is something that is very critical and key. If we want to really excel as good finance professionals. I said this I wrap up my little way. Um, by way of conclusion, from my end, from my little perspective, I reviewed a payment. I was a financial accountant, a group financial accountant. I was reviewing a payment. Then I saw, by the time I started narrowing down, two things I realized. One, product specification does not match what was supplied. And then I asked a question. Look at your purchase request. The specifications are well stated. So how come there's deviation from what was requested and what was supplied? There was no justification memo regarding if what is available is should be accepted. And remember, in programmatic environment, you have specific needs, things you need to work with, and those, yeah. So you make your purchase request based on those specific needs. So how come that we are procuring these items outside what was specifically requested by the user unit? Then I flagged that question. I became enemy of so many people, but I don't give a damn. So long I know I'm doing the right thing, I'm adding value in my own little way to ensure the organization get value for every resources spent.
Yes.
So as little as that might be, I was compelled to make payment, and I said no, I'm not going to make the payment. Let the rain I want to fall, let it fall. And I held on to that payment, and I did not make it because I was not satisfied.
Of course.
And there was no reasonable justification on ground to give me that safe level of comfort and safe to say, okay, ABCD has been in place. Okay, other the persons with the right approval to issue at PO has actually given a you understand a follow-on PO to say, okay, issue based on ABCD justification why we should procure these other items. There was no justification memo, so I said no. Okay, you procurement, please can you request justification approval from the PO issuer authorizer to enable me make this payment? That became it. That was how that payment. Unfortunately, we couldn't procure, and it had some impact on our implementation. But I was doing the right thing, and so that was how I was able to save the organization from huge amount of money. And I became a sports target, enemy of everybody. Just because I didn't give them, I didn't allow them to have their way and all of that. You know what hurt me because of my little experience
Yep.
in audit when I was doing consulting for about 3 years. So because of those exposure, it really hurt me.
Yeah. Fair enough. So two things I'll say. Like, sorry, maybe I'll allow you to ask a question. I just want to help top this up, pretty much. So one of the things you see, I remember this when I was at Big Four. Then, I was in financial services audit for a while, and the funny part is that you'll be shocked when you start the audits. The companies will offer you. In fact, it happened to me and a few of my friends. They will offer you twice your pay in terms of offer letter while you're on the audit, because they know you're going to see something and they don't want you to say that thing. So they will offer you. Imagine you working. Maybe you're earning 200K and somebody is offering you 500K a month. You think about it now in that process of trying to finish the audit. So it's one of the things that you will see. Also, it's very common. Then two things. Secondly, what I always do with procurement people, this is another tip for people who deal with them. After introducing, I remember the first time I did this, after introducing the approved list that, okay, we should buy from them, the procurement guys think they're smart now. They will find the ones that they can penetrate. Just like you said, they'll send quotes at different intervals. So what I used to do is every quarter or every half year, I will run a report for all our suppliers to do the total amount of business we've done with them. And I'll send it to the CEO and say, hey, we're having a concentration risk here. We buy only from this particular supplier, which means we might not be getting the fair deal. I'm not reporting the procurement guy doing anything funny. I'm not doing anything. Only thing is I'm using data to tell a story, which is another thing you can also learn from that. Learn how to look at the system, use the data and send it. It's just a report. I'm not accusing it. I'm not indicting it. I'm only saying 80% of our procurement is coming from one person. We are at a risk. If that company goes down, our business will go down. That's all I'm saying. Everybody will fight. Management will call procurement. Why are you doing it? The procurement person will be forced to either buy more from the others or bring new people. And what used to happen, I remember I used to instigate to sometimes say, sir, I feel this company is big, but they're only supplying 5%. What's going on? I think you should call them in. It's when you call them in, you now realize that you people don't give me business. So CEO will call procurement man, you're not giving business to this guy. What's going on? So indirectly, what was happening is I never had the direct clash with the procurement manager, because it's when you have direct clash that people attack you back. They become, enemies. But at the same time, I'm always playing that, data game too. Like, okay, because everything is on the data. Just like you just said now, there was a specification, something else was bought. For me, I probably would even, if it would, because sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where if you don't buy that thing, it will really affect the business and you will lose money. So it's not a problem. All I would do is just do it as an exception report that, sir, I had to allow this fly, but however, we had an exception, just to bring to your attention, or just to let you know, FYI, we had an exception. This was what was ordered. This was what was delivered, and this might create this. Submit it to CEO. I guarantee you, afterwards, nobody will try that again, because most CEOs that I know, they are always very passionate about their company. So there are multiple ways around playing around with ethical situation, but the fact is you will meet it, and every day you encounter it. What I also advise is look for people that are more experienced, that you can share information with, but not the details, because remember, confidentiality is key. So Mabel, I think you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, Mr. George. Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you for your experience. Thank you for what you've taught us. In my own case, I have a question before I'll give my own experience.
Sure.
The question is this. Okay, when you find out, okay, like for instance, okay, like this dilemma we're talking about now. Sometimes, okay, I handle the finance of my company. I'm a finance executive.
Sure.
Now, when I notice some things and I bring it up, like when I notice some fishy things and I bring it up, I expect my management to back me up. But in my own situation, instead of my management to back me up, in fact, they exposed me the more. This is my experience. We have a training institute in my organization. Now we have somebody handling it. Now I already know this lady, like we talked about this procurement. She tops things up, like if something is, if a particular expense is okay, let me say a particular expense is let's say 100,000, you had to hit, and I know that is a lie. So now this particular day, she sent her report to me. Of course, when I send money to her, she's expected to retire, like tell me how it was spent. Now I noticed that this particular expense was reviewed up, or like that was not the exact amount. So I told her, I said, this what you spent on this, I think is on the high side. And I didn't know this lady already had me in my, like, no, already they already know me. Like it's like somebody, I think was it Mr. I don't know the person that just spoke now. They see me as enemy of progress. In fact, somebody even told me that is this my father's company? Allow us now. Waiting happen. Allow us. I said, which one is allow us? Me, I'm doing my work. I can't just allow you put to when I know what you are doing is wrong. So back to what I was explaining. I told this lady that what you spent on this particular expense is on the high side. And this lady, as in, when she turned the whole thing upside, like she made it confrontational. In fact, she almost assaulted me in the office. Like I was like, I'm just trying to, what I knew what I was doing was right. She knew what she was doing was, but she needed to like turn it upside and like make it like, why would I be okay? Am I telling her she's a thief? I said I have not said so. I'm saying what you spent on this is on the highs, and I was very sure of what I was saying. Now, before this issue, we work Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday, we're not supposed to work. But my boss on Saturday, Sundays, my boss will call me. He will tell me, do this, do this, do this, do that. I have been doing it. Now, there's this particular day that the owner of the business now is a small company, one-man business. I was cooking when he sent me something to do. I forgot I was cooking. I was doing what he asked me to do. I almost got my house burnt because of what I was. So since then, I made up my mind that anything he asked me to do Saturday, Sunday, I'll have to do it. I'll do it, but I'll do it on Monday. Now, what I did was I said, because if he calls me, I can't say no. If he calls me, I won't do anything. But on Monday morning, I'll call and say, sir, I missed your call. And whatever he wants me to do, I'll do. So I think he got angry that, he calls me weekend, like, sir, imagine on Sunday. On Sunday now, before I even come back from church, he would have sent so many things I would do. I don't have weekend, like I don't have my weekend. So I have to like stop it that. No, I almost got my house burnt because of office work. And this is not even my like Saturday. This is like my own off now. So I think my boss, that's the owner of the business, got angry, but he didn't tell me anything. I think he also got angry that he asked me to do something about I'll move it till Monday. Now, when this whole issue with this lady, back to this lady again, when this whole issue came up, she was confrontational. She almost assaulted, like, no, when somebody almost beat me up in the office. Now, this same lady quickly called her GM that, oh, look at what Mabel did. As in, she just turned the whole thing upside down. Mabel is calling her a thief. I say, how? She did not just stop there. She went on and called the owner of that's this smart, the owner of the business now. That I told you already had some beef for me because I don't pick his call during the weekend again. Whatever he asked me to do Saturday, Sunday, I'll move it to Monday and I'll do it well. So this lady called my boss and told her everything that I'm accusing her. So when I noticed that she already called her GM, she called the owner of the business. So I have to call the owner and I explained that, sir, what she spent, I am very sure, 100% sure that was not what that she reviewed it. My boss gave me that like kind of assurance. Don't worry. Why would she do that? Does she not know you are doing your work? Don't worry, we'll give her a query. So to me, I felt, oh, at least I have the backing of management. What I was doing was right. To my surprise, when my boss came back, he was out of the country that time. When he came back, the lady was okay. We had like a small meeting. So my boss said, okay, we should start like what happened. I was like, why is this man bringing this now? Of course, this will bring another issue again. To my greatest surprise, after explaining my part and the lady explained my part, what would my boss tell me? Mabel, if somebody should just add a little to it, you can also help her add. Okay, assuming, okay, let me put it this way. It was supposed to be like 100,000. She added 20 to it, that's 120. And that was my own bone of contention. Why would she add to it? Now my boss is telling me, maybe if she had 20,000, even if she had 50 to it, give her the 150,000. I was like, what? What I'm trying to do is in the interest of the business. That's what my boss is saying in front of the lady. That maybe if she requests for 120, what's there? You can just add 30 and just give her 150,000. I was speechless. I was helpless. I was down. I was like, what's this man saying? The summary of the whole thing is that at the end of the day, the old judgment was in favor of this lady that was wrong. And since that day, I made up my mind. I said, no, I'm not, because already the whole seemed like enemy of progress. Somebody was even telling me, is it your father's company? Is it your father's company? You don't allow us to do what we want. You don't allow us to, if somebody just has something small, you go down, you put in your, so since that day, I have to like calm down. Calm down, that I mean is this. If I'm trying to help the company to save money, and it became confrontation like what happened, or it turned out this way, I expected my management to back me up, but I was surprised. My management was backing the wrong person. Maybe because of, like I said, I was no more picking his calls on Saturdays and Sundays. I was no more doing all those extra office work on Saturday. Maybe I don't know if that was the reason why he did what he did, but I won't lie to you. Ever since then, anything that has to do is whatever they send to me, I just do, because it does not make any sense again. It does not make any sense to me. If I'm trying to help the company save money, and if the whole thing turned the way it is now, company will now like turn his back against me. Since then, I have to calm down. So like, if you find myself in this situation, what would you do? Because I won't lie to you, ever since then I've been down. Like, in fact, people now say, I got catch him. I too know, I too do. Because somebody told me, say, you see this management, you are always backing every time. One day, this manager will turn his back against, and that was what happened that day. In fact, I was, no.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Okay, so that's it's a practical situation you are, and I guarantee you are not the only one. I've been in similar situation, but what I see that is there that you've also highlighted indirectly is you've missed out the role of office politics in everything. Rule number one, I'll tell you one thing that somebody once told me, a mentor, a very senior person in the industry that is a big man. He told me once that, look, wherever you are working, you can never be more Catholic than the Pope. It's a figure of, speech. Like, I said, what do you mean? He said, you can never be more Catholic like the Pope. He told me 3 times in our conversation that day, and he never explained it to me. It was later and I discovered that what he meant was, 1, you can never love the company more than the owner of the company. That's rule number 1 for any business. So in as much as you love the company, don't forget, you can't love him more than the owner of the company. That's 1. 2, whatever you do, I always advise people, don't be confrontational, because one of the bad things about confrontation is it makes it become personal. Try as much as possible to avoid it. And the easiest way not to be confrontational in anything you do is learn how to communicate. I give you a typical example of what I did with my procurement people then. I never went to them. All I'll just do is analyze things and send it to my CEO. Just random analysis of procurements, random analysis and send. I won't see anything, but my report will say it, and the owner of business will see it and like, what is this? No owner of business that doesn't want to save money. I don't think I've met any owner of business that you say they are chopping his money or our money and they will keep quiet. Once they see that report, it changes the whole dynamics. There's something also about what you call reading the room. Reading the room in the sense that lady, for her to go to that extent, must have something that she's banking on. She's probably well connected in the system. It may not just be about you. It may be like she's connected in the system. There's something about her that you may not know that gives her the kind of power. Because if somebody is doing something funny with money, I tell you for free, nobody would be that bold to like say, no, and be confident about it. There's always a situation like the example I gave earlier of my subordinate sleeping with the CEO, and I found out through interacting with people, because one of the problems guys have sometimes we always do is you go too high up in the ladder and you don't seem to realize what's on the ground. What I always do, people that have worked with me will tell you, I'm always in tune with everybody, even security man, every cleaner, because what you don't know is the cleaner that will tell you is the security man. I'm not saying go and hang out with them, but I always occasionally give them 500, 200, occasionally just to make them happy. And sometimes they'll tell you, Oga, do you know this and this? Be careful with this. From there, you have all the information you need to be able to succeed. So, in doing such, right, I wouldn't say be confrontational. I will say what you call, I don't know, for lack of a better way to call it, I'll call it wash your hands. Wash your hands means that when you notice that, document it and make it documented, like maybe an email to your boss who is saying give 150. It's fine. Remember, what you are doing in that scenario is you are being professional, you are doing your job, you are not going beyond the line, but you are documenting it, meaning that you can do it as a short email to your boss. Hey boss, I noticed this and this. Not verbal, an email. Then when you send the email, you can have a conversation with him. Let him not say, don't worry now, you can pay 150, it's fine. So that the day of reckoning or something happens, it's all documented. You have your evidence that you escalated it to somebody more superior. And the rule of work is that if somebody more superior than you is aware of it, that person is now saddled with the responsibility of taking a decision. And if that person doesn't take a decision on that, it is on that person's head. It's totally on that person's head, whether you like it or not. So make sure it's documented to your bosses that, okay, you noticed this, without being confrontational, because no one likes confrontation. That's the reality. That's on one side. Then your boss calling you on weekend, that's the challenge with one-man business. They will always do that. And you need to find a way. I don't know the kind of personality the person has. You need to find a way to manage that perception about you. Yeah, he's pissed off all that and all that, because sometimes he'll call you on the weekend either as bad habits, because one thing I don't know why employers do is they believe because they have so much passion and love for their company, you should have the same passion and love, forgetting the fact that they don't pay you the same salary they pay themselves, they don't share you the same money. So you are just an employee, you're supposed to do your job and you are paid to do that job. But it's normal. I've run my own business, so it's a general thinking. I'm calling you Sunday nights, you're telling me you're not this and all that. So you need to find a way. I don't know the kind of personality. Maybe later we can talk about it. Ways around managing such people. If they like you, they will understand. I've had situations where bosses, like, that sometimes you will do it, sometimes don't. I'm not saying do Saturday or Sunday work. I'm not saying don't, but sometimes do it. Sometimes just so I'm not at home right now. I travel. I'm not with my family. I don't have access. There are ways around those things. After a while, you gradually break the habit of the guy sending you stuff weekend, because they will say, this one now I will call. This person might be with her family in a different state. Or this person has gone to night video. Whatever it is, you will find a very subtle way of dribbling the organ so that they will be discouraged from calling you. Rather than feeling like I'm giving you work, you are telling me you can't do the work. Because that's how it sounds if you don't pick their call and you don't return the call or something. That's how bosses feel like. Because at that point, it may be urgent to them, but they always forget you have a life. So you just need to find some subtle political way of playing. I'm delving more into the angle of politics around this right now. So that's why I'm saying this. So you need to bring in politics into this. The people messing around, make sure it's documented. I always do that. I had a boss who would want you to approve money, a CEO. in a publicly listed company that I work for. He will come, send 10 million to this account, and give you a piece of paper. He will not want to sign PV. When he did it to me too, I've been in this game for a while, so no wahala now. Issue, I'll just do it, sir, email. So 10 million to be sent, so is ready for approval. Kindly approve. The man will ignore it. Or when I noticed he will ignore it, I started changing my tone of my email. Sir, this money is being processed to be sent to this account as instructed. I'll send it to him. I'll copy like 2 other organs. He will never reply, but it's documented. His silence means acceptance, because if he's not silent, he should have replied me that who authorized this. For him not asking that question, it means that he knows about it. So if something happens tomorrow, I'll say, yes, he said I should do it. I sent an email. They will ask him, where is the proof that you countered that email and asked questions? He will not be able to give me an answer because he didn't. Because in that situation, that's crazy. I've been asked to send 70 million to an account on just a piece of paper, no documentation, no explanation, nothing. And who am I? He's my boss. I don't want to be fired, because when he's at the board of directors meeting, I won't be there. They can say George is a useless person. He's always misbehaving. Let's fire him. Before you know it, they will fire me. The same thing too. If you put yourself in those situations, you might be at risk of being fired. So, but like I said, come into the realm of politics. Play the game the way they want it to be played. Okay, fine. No problem. Get it documented. Sir, I noticed this thing is 120k, but auntie is asking for 150k. What do you think? Let your guy be quiet. Or, sir, auntie, this is 120 from my check and he's asking for 150. Should I go ahead? Whatever it is, just make sure it's documented and be saving your file. And I still have all those my file of those days, so that if somebody calls me, EFCC calls me tomorrow night, I'll dig it out. So, when this happened, this is what I did. So that's just my own advice to it. But there has to be like a subtle way around it. Rule number 1 for me is I never become confrontational. Where I have a power to influence, I influence. Where I don't have the power to influence, I find other means around it. I use my reports, or at most, if I have the power, I can get them to hire internal auditor. Or even now, if we have already, fine, it's just to nudge. Okay, I need you to help do a report on this. I'm just trying to think of a way to improve our process. Can you look through some of these procurements and give us a report? And I want us to share with the MD. You are not saying anything. You are not reporting anybody. You're only asking people to do their jobs. That way, to take the pressure off you, the work gets done. At the end of the day, you're directly not anybody's enemy, even though indirectly you are, because they know it came from you. So that's my own suggestion and advice to that type of situation. But remove that bad impression about you from the owner of the business. For me, every other person, I really don't care. As long as the person who owns the business, because that's the person who has the power to hire and fire. And that's the person you owe all responsibility and duty to. So make sure that you're in the good books of that person, and that will be fine. So thanks, Mabel, for sharing. Thanks. I think I'm not sure. I think we've taken so much time, so to be able not to finish people's data. So I think we will end this year. So I will leave everybody on the last note to say, always remember your conscience is the first guide towards right or wrong. Always listen to your conscience. That's my own guide in whatever I do, and we all know what is right or wrong. Even the people in government, everybody knows. The only difference is we try to justify it as human beings. If I don't steal the money, somebody else will steal it. Just like the one who says, is it your company? They will be telling them, they know it's wrong, but they are telling themselves that if I don't take it, somebody else will take it. So why am I bothering myself? I beg, let me take it. But whether it's right or wrong, we all know. So always listen to your conscience, and thank you for listening today, and have a lovely week ahead. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. George, for the wonderful insights you've shared. So it's on this note that we call it a wrap, and we look forward to having you all on the call again next month, where we'll be having, or when we'll be having
Thanks, everyone. See you later.